Hello all, welcome to Rupa's online tutorials. Now I'm going to briefly discuss the computer science blueprint for this year, 2023, which was the new model paper which is being given by the second PU board. So earlier exams papers which you have observed, part A consisted of 1 mark questions, direct questions, and you were answering those 1 mark questions. But this year you have them as MCQs. So if you observe this particular model paper, part A questions, if you see the part A questions, the very short answers, which is carrying 1 mark for you. Okay, so they are all MCQs. So 15 MCQs are there in part A. So part A has 15 MCQs from 15 chapters. From 15 chapters, only chapter 6 and chapter 12 questions are excluded. So the rest of it all you have to read for the MCQs. And you again observe here in this particular fill in the blanks, if you observe here, the fill in the blanks here. So the fill in the blanks in part A, okay, that comes from chapter 13 alone. That is database concepts. So 5 marks you can get from here. So my suggestion would be for you is like you can, you learn the 1 mark questions of database concepts. So you can score the 5 marks here. And here to score these 15 MCQs, it may be or may not be easy, to be honest, because some of the answers are quite confusing. So you need to analyze the question and then only put the correct answer. And some answers, sorry to say, in the model question paper itself, there were some answers, instead of one answer matching, 3 answers were matching. So in those cases, like you have to attempt the questions, because if you attempt the question, you will definitely get the grace marks. So don't leave any answers in the MCQs, because as we know that the passing marks in computer science is 21 marks. And if you observe here, it is 15 plus 5, 20 marks comes from the first main itself. So naturally, they are not going to give everything easy. So those who have to get out, those who are trying to get 70 out of 70, then my suggestion is you please go through the textbook, because only from the textbook they can ask you from any nook and corner of the textbook. So most of the questions will be easy. Definitely 10 questions will be easy. The rest of the 10 questions, 10 to 12, 10 questions, maybe like average, or like it might be a little more difficult. But again, there is your luck which may play out there, because if you guess something and you do get it correctly, then you may get the full marks there. So anyhow, all the best for your exams. It's on 29th March, and you might be studying for the same. Keep calm and study, and keep calm, read the question 1 or 2 times and then start marking the answers. So that's my suggestion. And if you look at the 2 marks questions, in 2 marks questions, you need to answer, in 2 marks, you need to answer 4 questions. So if you see here, there are many chapters which has been put here. If you observe here, there are many chapters which are there. So you can just select the chapters which is easy for you. You can just select the chapters. For example, if you're good at maths, and you can do the Boolean algebra chapter. And OOPS concepts, it's only definitions, objects, classes. Then they may ask you about the characteristics of OOPS, like abstraction, polymorphism. Those definitions they may ask you. Inheritance, encapsulation, okay, dynamic binding. So these questions are common questions for 2 marks. And constructors and destructors, again, it is quite easy. What is constructor? What is destructor? Syntax of copy constructor. All these questions are commonly asked for 2 marks. And then in data file handling, you may have the difference between read and write, get line, put, write. There are these kind of questions they ask you, IF stream, OF stream, class. So here you can look at this particular chapter for data file handling. Is a small chapter and direct questions they are. And here in database concepts, generally they ask you the definitions. What is a tuple? What is a entity? Okay. So, and these kind of questions come here in database concepts, but it's a bigger chapter. So you can just take a chance of writing here. And but database concepts, if you look overall, it comes to 16 marks because it is there in all the mains. So it's an important chapter. So please go through that well. In SQL commands, generally they ask you the syntax. Okay, syntax and example. That's what is asked in SQL. Syntax and example. So mainly there are whatever you have learned for the practicals. For example, you have learned the create command, the DDL commands, they may ask you give the example and syntax of two DDL commands. So data definition language, that is how to create a table, how to alter the table or how to drop the table. And which are the DML commands? See, I have made separate videos on database concepts. So if you have doubts, you can go and look into those videos also for better understanding. So DML commands here is your select, update, then delete, then delete, and then you have insert. Okay, so these are the 7 commands which you should be clear with the syntax and example. So this is useful for you even in this 2 marks question, 1 mark question, and also in the 5 mark questions they may ask you. So please be aware of this. Then coming to networking concepts again, your 2 marks questions may be about the communication modes or the different type of networks, the topologies, and what is the difference between like LAN and WAN. Okay, all these questions may come. Networking concepts again, it's a bigger chapter. But if you look here, we need only 4 chapters which you need to be thorough here. Because 2 marks, there is only 4 questions that you need to answer. So if you are okay with Boolean algebra, chapter 2, there are 2 questions which will come from chapter 2. So one question will be your any of the laws which you need to prove, and one more question will be your theory question. One more question will be like min term, max term, what is tautology, fallacy, what are canonical forms, general questions like that. It may be like that. So generally one will be where you're going to prove the laws, and another will be like this. So this year itself, chapter 2 can answer 2 questions, and then I would suggest chapter 6, that is also easier. So here you have 2 questions, here you have 1 question, and if you look at data file handling, that is also easy. Okay, so here 1 more question you can answer, and SQL command is also easy because you would have learned for the practicals. So here also 1 question. So if you see here, totally like you have 5 questions which I have put. So these 4 chapters, if you're learning thoroughly, it is much, you can, not that you skip the other chapters. Please let me make that clear. Please don't skip the other chapters. But if you are thorough with 4 to 5 chapters, then the chances of you doing better is always there. So I would not say that, okay, ma'am told on the video, then we skip the chapters. Don't do that. Those who are planning to get complete marks, please learn all the chapters. It is crucial that you learn everything, okay? Because we are only making a guesswork here. So out of these questions, you be thorough, because many repeated questions may come, may not come. The chances of repeated questions coming and not coming is there. But then yes, we are just doing a kind of analysis. So the next main 3 marks questions, if you observe, the 3 marks questions also you need to answer 4 questions. So 4 questions means 4 to 5 chapters you need to be thorough. So I would suggest that chapter 1 is very easy. Okay, chapter 1 is quite easy chapter, interesting chapter which you would have learned when you just joined the second PU. So here you can see here chapter 1. So here you can learn the chapter 1 3 mark questions. General asked questions are your components of motherboard, characteristics of motherboard, UPS, cache memory, types of ports, types of buses. There are a lot of questions there, but they're easy, simple questions. So go through those questions. And then you have logic gates. So in logic gates, again, you have to write the logic symbol and through table of the logic gates, basic gates as well as derived gates. And also you have the realization of gates using NAND NOR gate. So only so many questions are there around, the logic symbol and truth table of all the basic gates and derived gates, and the realization of AND, OR and NOT gate using the NAND gate and NOR gate. So definitely you can get 3 marks there. Now data structure is again a big chapter. So they may ask you algorithms there. They may ask you, they may ask you uh, the algorithm for insert element in an array, delete element in an array, or they may ask you the push and pop, any one of those algorithms, or the traversal of the array. Generally, these are what is asked in 3 marks. So those who find algorithms easy to learn can go through these algorithms. But again, there might be theory questions also, like applications of stacks, queues, linked lists, arrays, or this time one of the model papers are asking applications of De Morgan's theorem. So they might be looking for the, some other answers also. So data structures is something which it's a big chapter, and you can get very good marks from data structures, but again it requires a little bit effort. Okay, then you have this chapter pointers. Pointers is quite simple. You can just learn the operations on pointers, advantages of pointers, and the difference between static and dynamic memory allocation. Also you can learn that new and delete operator. These are a few questions that they generally ask. Apart from that, maybe like they may ask you like the initialization of pointer, or what is a pointer. These questions usually come for 1 mark generally. Declaration of pointer, initialization of pointer, and all just becomes for 1 mark. But we never know how it's been asked. But these are the common questions. So pointer is one chapter. You can easily learn chapter 1, which is a simple chapter. Chapter 3 is also quite simple. And then you have this chapter 11, and chapter 12 again. If you observe here, 11 and if you observe here, it is there in 2 marks as well as 3 marks. So generally in chapter 12 data file handling, you have a question like what is the difference between IF stream and OF stream class. Now if it comes for 2 marks, you write 2 points. If it comes for 3 marks, you write 3 points. So it's a small chapter. It is just the functions of IF stream class and OF stream class. And then the open mode, they have one question on open mode. So file mode parameters, that is also very important. So file mode parameters is generally very common question that is asked in many exams. For example, if you remember this scope resolution operator, iOS ::in, iOS ::out. So these are very commonly asked question here. And then difference between what is that, IF stream, OF stream, difference between put and write. And one more important question is text file and binary file. So it's a very small chapter. Please be thorough with chapter 12 and 11. 11, 12 and 1 you are getting 3 marks already. I mean 3 questions. And here if you observe, again as I tell, database concepts, you are having this, you can go through this. And internet and open source, this is also an easy chapter, theory chapter. You have e-commerce and its advantages, services, and types. Generally these 3 questions are asked in internet and open source concepts. Sometimes they may ask you the definitions of open source software, freeware, shareware, and all also. And in web designing, again, this is also an easy chapter if you see. So chapter 15 and 16 is also some direct questions are there. So in HTML, generally they ask you about tags. So you go through all the different tags. For example, you can go through the table tags because it's there in the practicals. TR for table row, TD for table data, TH for table heading. And then you have one more tag, that is, after table tags, the form tags which you have used in your program. So your form tags are like, in your input type is equal to text, the radio button, then submit button, password, etc. And you can also go through the text formatting tags, your bold, underline, italic, all these are your text formatting tags. And you have your basic tags. Basic tags is your HTML head, title. All this we have already used in the practical. So once you revise, it will be very easy and you can score 3 marks. So here only 4 questions have to be answered. So according to this think chapter 1 is easy, chapter 11 pointers is easy, 12 is easy, 15 and 16 is also easy. And chapter 3 is only logic gates. Those who are comfortable with the logic gates, you can definitely try that. So if it is 4 questions, at least 5 chapters you are thorough, then okay, you can have a choice with one of those questions. Okay, so better chance of getting good marks. Now coming to the last part of this blueprint, the 5 marks questions. See, this is what is important. You please concentrate on the 3 marks and 5 marks, which carries the maximum marks for you. So again, if you look at the 5 marks questions here, the 5 marks you need to answer 6 questions. 6 questions which will carry you 30 marks. Okay, 5 marks each. So 30 marks. So this main is very important. That is 30 marks, and the previous 3 marks, 12 marks. Here it is 42 marks, which is very important for you because you can score good marks from these two mains. Okay, though it looks lengthy and everything, it is 5 marks, 5 points are more than enough. But yes, for the students who want to score high, you can definitely write 1 or 2 points extra, so that if you miss on one of these points, you can always, they can correct one more point for you. So here, if you observe the Boolean algebra, you generally, the questions asked is either the K-map or the De Morgan's theorem. Okay, so it is like, I can assure you, like 80% it is K-map only which is asked. And in K-map, it is always sum of products. It will be with the sigma, whichever comes, that will be the K-map question. This video also I have put in my in my videos. So this particular thing also you can check it out if you are not understood. And the next one is data structures. So in data structures, if you observe, there are 2 questions in data structures. So one question will generally be an algorithm. Okay, one question will be an algorithm, and one question will be a theory based question. So it's a theory based question, means it may be like operations on queues, operations on linked list, or types of queues, or you can have, they can also ask you like operations on stacks, arrays. Okay, it can be anything like that, or applications they can ask you. Okay, and types of queues, types of linked lists. So these kind of questions they usually ask. It is a theory question. And also the primitive and non-primitive data structures. It's a very commonly asked questions in the exam. And algorithms for 5 marks, generally it will be a binary search. Okay, many a times this has come, binary search and insertion sort, and queue algorithms are asked in 5 marks. Okay, or sometimes they may combine the insert and delete element in an array. So here you should be very careful when you're writing these algorithms. You should not get confused with this. See, whenever sort comes, it is arrangement of elements in an array. Whereas insert and delete element in array means you are going to insert the element or delete the element from the array. So this things you should be very careful while writing the algorithms. But if you are good at writing algorithms, stepwise they give marks, and you can easily score marks here. Okay. And then you have OOPS concepts. Now this is a very easy chapter. There are only 5 questions, main questions: advantages and disadvantages of OOPS. Then you have advantages of OOPS over procedural programming language. So you need to write about OOP and POP. If they ask you advantages of OOPS over earlier programming languages, you have to write, advantages of OOPS over earlier programming languages, you have to write about advantages. If they ask you advantages of OOPS over procedural programming language, if procedural word is used, then you have to write the difference between OOP and POP. So please remember this. Many students get confused with this particular question. Okay, so they don't ask you such kind of questions, which is direct questions. It is easier to write. So as I told you, if this word earlier programming languages comes, okay, sorry, my pen tablet is dancing now. Earlier programming, this. See, earlier programming languages, if this word comes, earlier programming languages, then you have to write about the advantages of OOPS over earlier programming languages. Then you have to write the advantages of OOPS. Okay, if they say compare with the procedural programming languages. So procedural here, P comes means it means the POP over OOP. So have this clarity. So this is one thing, advantages, and then POP over OOP. This is one more question. Then applications of OOP is easy one. It is, if they ask you, you are lucky. You just need to write CAD CAM software and all those things. So then after that, they may ask you the um, yeah, characteristics of OOPs like abstraction, encapsulation. Generally, that is asked in your 2 marks. So that is characteristics of OOPs. So these are all the common questions that is asked. Small chapter, 4 to 5 questions are there. Please go through those questions. So again, as I told you, this chapters can be easily learned. It's all theory questions. So nothing in this one. But yes, scoring marks comes definitely from your C++. Okay, to score marks definitely comes from your C++. So you have classes and objects. Here 3 questions are very important. One is class definition and declaration. Okay, definition and declaration with syntax and example. And the second one is your member function inside the class. And the third one is member function outside the class. Okay. Apart from that, yes, you may have other questions regarding the access specifiers. But these 3 questions, yes, you can score 5 marks here. Okay. And then you have function overloading. Again, in function overloading, you can learn about friend functions and, give a example of what is function overloading and give one example, programming example, because you have learned it in the program 8, I believe. Okay. But you can try write any program because the same function name should be there. That is important. And then you have this constructors and destructors. Again, you are having what is a constructor, rules for constructor, what is a destructor, rules for destructor. And they may ask you the types of constructor, like parameterized constructor and example, default constructor and example, copy constructor and example. So this is a bigger chapter. And then you have inheritance. Now this is very easy. Please go through this chapter, inheritance. Okay. Sorry. See inheritance. If you see the inheritance chapter, you can see generally like only 2 to 3 questions are there in inheritance. One is what is the advantages of inheritance. Second will be what are the different types of inheritance. Now this question can be asked in 2 ways. What is inheritance? Explain any 2 types. Or they may ask you what is inheritance? Explain multiple inheritance and hybrid inheritance. So they can ask the question in any way. So here inheritance is a very simple chapter. One is your advantages. Second is your types of inheritance. And the third one is explain inheritance with example. So if you remember your program 11, I suppose 11 in your book, in your practicals, that is telling you about the uh, programming example of inheritance. It is with colon you declare class report colon public student. So that program is what they're talking about. So any program you can give for inheritance. So simple programs also can be given, not necessary that only complex programs has to be written. Only the concept should be clear. So if you observe here in chapter 1, Boolean algebra, then OOPS concepts, chapter 6, okay, and then classes and objects, chapter 7, and then you have chapter 10, and chapter 4, at least one question you can be thorough, theory question you can learn if you are confused with the algorithms, because many of the students are only worried about the algorithms, they don't think about the other theory questions. So please don't do that. Theory questions are easy, then learn that, be thorough with that. Okay, so then constructors, destructors, again, whichever is easy for you, you can just go through them. Rules for constructor is generally asked. If you get that question, you are lucky. Next is database concepts. Again, database concepts is a very good chapter because there are only theory questions in this. So general questions in database concepts is, the difference between manual and electronic data processing. This is a common question that is asked. And then they ask you about the advantages of databases. That is data redundancy, all those questions. And then you have applications of databases. And then you have stages of data processing. So I tell my students, yes, please remember this, for this particular question, you learn the block diagram of the computer. That was very useful for you. Okay, stages of data processing. And then I told you that time itself the SQL commands. If you learn the syntax and example, and in SQL commands, they generally ask you the group functions, then about the operators, they ask you the relational, logical, and that one question may come, relational, logical, and arithmetic operators. The very simple question, go through that. And syntax and example also of the 7 SQL commands, which we discussed earlier. So that is also one question. And then you have the networking concepts. See, networking concepts, generally you have the networking devices, the networking services, goals for networking, then about virus prevention, virus symptoms, all these questions can come in networking concepts. So here, if you see here, not chapter 1, sorry, here chapter 2, K-map. So K-map and Boolean algebra, and then object-oriented concepts, and in 7, declaration of classes, and then chapter 10, inheritance. Okay, in chapter 4, at least one theory question if possible. 13 is also theory, and 14 has syntax, 15 is also theory. So at least if 5 questions you are sure of, the 6, then you can definitely score very good marks. Okay, so one more important tip I would like to give to all of you is, when you see the question paper, don't worry about what you don't know. You have read something, you have prepared, your teachers have prepared for you all through the year. So have faith in yourself, and then keep calm and say to yourself that yes, I can do my best. So I can give my best. And what you know, please attempt those questions first, and then you can sit and recollect whatever you have, remember yourself, like what you have learned for the other questions. So always finish with the things that you have already learned, like what you are very sure of. You attempt those questions, and then you attempt those questions which you don't know. Okay, please don't leave out any answers, and do well. Okay, and as I told earlier, keep calm and study. That is very important. Even the teachers will be under pressure, and you also will be under great pressure. And since it's a last exam, and there is a long gap for the science students especially, uh, please plan every day and read. Still you have another 2 days to learn, so plan everything and read. All the best for your exams. If any more details you need to know, please comment in the section below, share and subscribe. Thank you.